While I was making coffee, my roommate asked, "Why is the kitchen floor wet?" I turned to face her. "Oh, because I fed your dog last night," I responded. My roommate Ingrid dropped to her knees right there in the kitchen. She started rocking back and forth, pulling chunks of her hair out while making this horrible keening sound. I tried to help her up, but she slapped my hands away. This is where... She couldn't finish the sentence before another wave of sobs hit her. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone. "Mom, it happened. 2:47 a.m., just like you said it would." She was barely making sense between the hyperventilating. Before I could ask what she meant, our landlord Dimitri burst through the door without even knocking. His face was purple with rage. "You sick bastard, that's $900 for cleanup or I'm calling the cops." He pointed at me like I was some kind of criminal. "Cleanup for what? It's just water." But he'd already stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Ingrid was still on the floor, now in the fetal position. She kept mumbling, "I should have protected him," over and over while digging her nails into her arms hard enough to draw blood. 3 weeks, she whispered. "You've been here 3 weeks and you already..." 20 minutes later, her mom showed up. The woman took one look at me and slapped me across the face so hard I tasted copper. "Monster! How could you?" "How could I what?" I held my stinging cheek, completely lost. "I just fed the dog. Ingrid told me she explained everything to you last week." Her mom's voice cracked. "During your roommate orientation." "What orientation? I never had any..." More people kept showing up and every single one acted like I'd committed murder. 3 neighbors were whispering in the hallway, and when I walked past, Mr. Okafor from 4B actually spit at my feet. "Murderer," he hissed. "But you just moved in," the woman from 4C said, confused. "How could you know to..." The pizza I'd ordered for lunch arrived, but when the delivery guy saw me, he pulled the box back. "I heard what you did. Get someone else." He left with my pizza. Ingrid's sister Beatrix showed up next and threw her entire venti coffee in my face. The cold liquid burned my eyes as she screamed, "I hate you." I was wiping coffee out of my eyes when I noticed the property manager taping something to our door. "Due to recent events, your lease is under review for violations of pet policy." "Wait," I called out. "I signed my lease on the 1st. Today's the 22nd. How could I..." "Don't play dumb," he snapped. But I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. Through all of this, Ingrid stayed on the floor. She'd gone from violent sobbing to this scary catatonic stare, occasionally whispering, "I can still hear him crying," while scratching bloody grooves in her arms. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing. I could see the messages lighting up the screen. "Is it true? I can't believe they did it. You deserved better. How is someone that evil?" A small crowd of 4 or 5 people were actually gathering outside our building. Through the window, I could see people holding signs but couldn't make out what they said. Someone had their phone out recording. Finally, Ingrid looked up at me with eyes so full of hatred I stepped back. "He was diabetic!" she screamed. "I told you 50 times feeding him at night would kill him." His blood sugar crashed at 2:47 a.m. I watched him convulse for an hour before his heart stopped. "You stood there and watched me set timers every day. You knew." My stomach dropped. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. I didn't know feeding times mattered that much. He was whimpering and... She laughed, but it sounded more like choking. "You deleted my reminder notes from the fridge. You threw away his medication schedule I taped to his food bin. You've been planning this for months because you were jealous of him." Her mom stepped forward. "The vet said it was the most painful way for a diabetic dog to die. You tortured him." "She showed you his medicine," her mom insisted. "The insulin. The special food. I've never seen any medicine. There's nothing on the fridge. Nothing on the food bin." My voice was getting desperate. "That's criminal animal cruelty," Dimitri the landlord said, reappearing in the doorway. "My lawyer's already drafting the lawsuit." "Your kind always does this," Ingrid's sister spat. "Takes what isn't yours. Destroys what you can't have." The crowd outside was getting louder. Someone was chanting. The police would probably show up soon. Ingrid stood up slowly, her legs shaking. "Everyone in the building knows what you did. Everyone at my work. Everyone at the dog park. You'll never be able to show your face in this neighborhood again." As I stood there with coffee dripping down my face, surrounded by people who wanted me destroyed, I remembered something. Something that would change everything once they saw it. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone as I pulled it from my pocket. I swiped through my photos until I found the video from 3 weeks ago when I first moved in. The timestamp at the top showed January 1st at 2:15 p.m. I held the screen up so everyone could see and hit play. The video showed me walking through the empty apartment, opening every cabinet and drawer while narrating what I was seeing for my mom back home. When I got to the kitchen part, the fridge door swung open to show nothing but the ice maker and empty shelves. No notes, no schedules, nothing taped anywhere. The camera panned over to where the dog food bin sat, and the wall behind it was completely bare, just white paint and nothing else. The room went dead quiet as everyone stared at my phone screen. Even the noise from the crowd outside seemed to fade away. Ingrid's mom grabbed the phone right out of my hand and brought it close to her face. Beatrix leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. They replayed the kitchen part 3 times. Dimitri pushed through the group and demanded to see it too. His purple face was starting to look more confused than angry. The property manager stepped forward and told me to send him the video right away for documentation. I took my phone back and quickly forwarded it to myself first as backup. My notification bar lit up, showing the neighborhood group chat had over 200 messages. The preview showed words like killer and monster, and my name over and over. More people were pushing into our apartment now. I recognized faces from the mailroom and elevator but didn't know their names. Everyone wanted to see the video. Ingrid suddenly screamed from where she was still on the floor. She said I must have deleted her notes after filming the video. She said I planned this from day one to kill her dog. She tried to lunge at me, but her mom caught her arms and held her back. Ingrid collapsed into fresh sobs, her whole body shaking. I backed toward my bedroom door and told everyone I needed a minute to find more proof. The property manager said nobody should leave until this got sorted out. He positioned himself by the front door like some kind of guard. I made it to my room and locked the door behind me. My hands were still trembling as I called the non-emergency police line. The woman who answered listened to me explain about the threats and false accusations. She told me to document everything and stay safe. She said unless someone physically hurt me or damaged my property, it was a civil matter. I opened the building chat app and my stomach turned. People were planning to call my job and get me fired. Someone had already posted my workplace information. Another person said they knew where I parked my car. I started taking screenshots of every single message. My phone storage was getting full, but I kept going. Page after page of threats and plans to ruin my life. I texted Lauren Stout from down the hall asking if she'd seen any medication notes on our fridge recently. She read the message right away but didn't respond. She was probably scared to get involved with this mess. I could hear voices getting louder outside my door. Someone was pounding on the wood demanding I come out. I plugged my laptop in and started uploading the move-in video to Google Drive, then Dropbox, then my iCloud. I emailed it to myself with detailed notes about what the timestamp showed. My laptop battery was dying, but I had to preserve this evidence. I added notes about the exact date and time I filmed it, how the fridge and food area were completely empty, how there was no medication anywhere visible, how I'd never received any orientation about the dog being diabetic. The pounding on my door got louder. Someone was trying the handle, jiggling it back and forth. I could hear Ingrid crying and her mom talking in low voices. Dimitri was on the phone with someone, probably his lawyer. The property manager kept telling people to calm down, but nobody was listening. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo of my car in the parking garage with a message saying I better not try to leave. Another message came through from someone saying they'd already contacted my boss on LinkedIn. I felt sick. 3 weeks ago, I was so excited to move to this building. The rent was good and Ingrid seemed nice when we met. Now I was locked in my room while a mob formed outside wanting to destroy my life over something I didn't even understand. The video was taking forever to upload. I watched the progress bar crawl forward. 70%. 75. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. 80%. The voices outside were getting angrier. Someone said they should call animal control and report me. Another person mentioned contacting the news. 90%. Almost there. Upload complete. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through my photos from yesterday. My thumb swiped past selfies and random shots until I found it. A live photo I'd taken of my coffee mug that accidentally caught the kitchen behind it. I pressed down on the image and watched it come to life. The fridge door was visible in the background, completely bare. No notes, no schedules, nothing taped to it at all. The timestamp said 11:47 p.m. last night. I took a screenshot and saved it to 3 different folders. My hands were still shaking as I grabbed a notebook from my desk drawer and started writing everything down. Ingrid said 2:47 a.m. exactly. She said that's when the dog died. I wrote it in big letters at the top of the page. Then I tried to remember where I was last night. I'd been feeling sick to my stomach around 2 a.m. and couldn't sleep. That's why I went to the diner. I was drawing a timeline on the paper when my phone rang. It was the police calling back. The officer said this sounded like a civil matter since nobody had physically hurt me yet. She told me to keep documenting everything and suggested I could file for restraining orders if people kept harassing me. She said to call 911 if anyone actually threatened me with violence. After she hung up, I opened the building chat app again. More horrible messages were flooding in. I found the admin's profile and sent them a direct message asking them to preserve all the posts for a possible defamation case. The message showed as read almost immediately, but they didn't reply. I could hear Ingrid's mom talking loudly in the living room about getting a lawyer. My stomach was in knots as I opened my text messages with Ingrid. I searched for words like orientation and pet and medication and feeding. Nothing came up except one message from 2 weeks ago where she canceled our planned roommate meeting. She'd written that she was too busy and we'd talk later. That meeting never happened. I was lying on my bed staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do next. I needed solid proof from someone else, not just my own photos and receipts. That's when my door handle started jiggling. Someone was trying to get in. The handle twisted back and forth, but the lock held. I could hear breathing on the other side. Then footsteps walking away. My heart was pounding, so hard I thought I might throw up. I opened my laptop and logged into my email. I searched for the move-in checklist the property manager had sent me when I signed the lease. There it was, dated 3 weeks ago. I downloaded the PDF and read through every page. The standard pet policy was there, but nothing about special care instructions. No addendum about a diabetic dog. Nothing that said I needed to follow specific feeding times. I forwarded it to myself with notes about what was missing. Then I remembered something else. I'd gone to the diner last night because I couldn't sleep. I opened my bank app with trembling fingers. The transactions loaded slowly. There it was. Metro Diner, 2:31 a.m., $18.42. My heart started racing. This was proof I wasn't even home when Ingrid said the dog was dying. According to her, the dog died at 2:47 a.m. after convulsing for an hour. That would mean it started having problems around 1:47 a.m., but I didn't leave until 2:17 a.m. and the dog was fine then. I took screenshots of the bank transaction and the timestamp. Then I remembered Ingrid had left me a voicemail last week. I scrolled through my voicemails until I found it. Her voice played through my phone speaker. She was saying she was too busy for roommate onboarding stuff, and we'd talk about the apartment rules later. I immediately saved the voicemail to my cloud storage and emailed myself the audio file. This proved she never gave me any orientation about the dog. My hands were sweating as I opened Google Maps on my phone. I clicked on your timeline and selected yesterday's date. The map showed everywhere I'd been with exact times. There it was in blue dots and lines. I left the apartment at 2:17 a.m. The GPS showed me walking to the corner store first, arriving at 2:25 a.m. Then I went to the Metro Diner, arriving at 2:29 a.m. I stayed there until 3:04 a.m. according to the location data. Then I walked home, arriving back at the apartment at 3:12 a.m. I was gone for almost a full hour during the exact time Ingrid claimed I was killing her dog. The timeline was precise down to the minute. Google's servers had recorded every movement. I started taking screenshots of each timestamp, making sure to capture the date and location markers. Someone knocked on my door hard enough to make me jump. They didn't say anything, just knocked 3 times and walked away. I could hear multiple voices in the living room now. It sounded like more people had shown up. Someone was crying. Someone else was yelling about calling animal control. I heard Dimitri's voice saying something about criminal charges. My phone battery was getting low, so I plugged it in while I kept working. I needed to organize all this evidence before I tried to show anyone. The move-in video, the live photo, the bank records, the Google timeline, the voicemail from Ingrid. Each piece proved I either wasn't there or was never told about the dog's condition. I opened a new document on my laptop and started typing out a timeline with all my proof. At the top, I wrote evidence of false accusation and started listing everything chronologically. Move-in video from 3 weeks ago showing no notes anywhere. Ingrid's voicemail saying she was too busy for orientation. The live photo from last night with no schedules on the fridge. My Google timeline showing I left at 2:17 a.m. The corner store arrival at 2:25 a.m. The diner transaction at 2:31 a.m. Returning home at 3:12 a.m. It all painted a clear picture that I couldn't have done what they said I did. The door handle jiggled again. This time someone knocked right after. Then I heard Beatrix's voice through the door asking if I was even in there. I didn't answer. I needed to finish organizing my evidence first. My laptop screen showed I had 17 screenshots, 3 videos, 2 audio files, and 6 documents all proving my innocence. But would anyone even look at them? The mob outside had already decided I was guilty. I could hear them making plans to ruin my life. Someone mentioned they'd already called my workplace. Another person said they were going to post about me on social media. The property manager was talking about eviction proceedings, all because Ingrid's dog died and she needed someone to blame. I opened the building's group chat app on my phone and started scrolling through hundreds of messages that had piled up in the last hour. My fingers shook as I scrolled back to find where it all started. There it was at 8:47 a.m. from someone named Jessica in 3C, saying she heard yelling and crying from our apartment and something about a dead pet. No actual details, just that she heard something bad happened. Then Mark from 2A replied asking what happened, and Jessica said she didn't know, but it sounded serious. Within 10 minutes, the whole chat exploded with people adding their own guesses and assumptions. Nobody actually saw anything, but everyone had an opinion about what I must have done. I took screenshot after screenshot of the messages showing how the story grew from nothing into this mob attacking me. My laptop dinged with a notification, and I switched tabs to check the metadata on all my move-in photos from 3 weeks ago. I right-clicked each image and selected properties to see the exact timestamps and GPS data embedded in the files. Every single photo showed the same thing, which was absolutely nothing on the fridge, nothing on the counter, nothing taped to the food bin where Ingrid kept the dog food. The kitchen was completely bare of any notes or schedules or medication instructions. I saved copies of the metadata reports showing the creation dates matched my move-in day exactly. Next, I opened my email and found the lease PDF the property manager had sent me 3 weeks ago. I used the search function to find the pet policy section on page 12. My eyes scanned the text looking for anything about violations, and there it was in black and white stating that any lease violations required written notice delivered to the tenant with 30 days to correct the issue before any eviction proceedings could begin. I checked my email again and my mailbox photos from this morning showing nothing had been delivered. No written notice existed anywhere in my records. My phone buzzed and I nearly dropped it when I saw the name Rudy Van pop up on the screen. He lived down the hall in 4F and we'd barely spoken except for polite hellos in the hallway. His text said he had Ring doorbell footage from last night that showed the hallway, and he'd seen what actually happened if I needed it for proof. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type back, "Yes, please, and thank you so much." He replied that he'd email me the video files in a few minutes. I pulled up Google and found the number for the nearest veterinary clinic, figuring maybe they could explain something about diabetic dogs that would help my case. The receptionist transferred me to someone named Martin Hewitt, who said he was one of the vets there. I explained I had questions about diabetic dog care in general without mentioning any specific animal. Martin told me that feeding schedules were definitely critical for diabetic pets, but the exact timing varied based on each individual animal's insulin schedule, and that owners needed to work closely with their vet to establish the right routine. He said giving food at the wrong time could definitely cause problems, but there were many factors involved. When I asked if he could discuss any specific cases, he said he'd need written permission from the pet owner due to privacy laws. I thanked him and hung up, then opened a new document to type up a formal request asking Ingrid to authorize the vet to release information about her dog's medical history and care requirements. I knew she probably wouldn't agree, but I had to try everything. While typing, I remembered the pizza incident from earlier and opened my food delivery app to check the order history. There it was, showing the pizza ordered yesterday at 12:15 p.m. for lunch delivery, not anywhere close to midnight or the supposed feeding time that killed the dog. The delivery was scheduled for 1 p.m. today, which is when the driver showed up and refused to give me my food. This timeline made no sense with their accusations about me feeding the dog at night. I switched back to Google Maps on my phone and clicked on my location timeline for last night. The blue dots and lines showed my exact movements with timestamps for everything. I left the apartment at 2:17 a.m. and the GPS tracked me walking to the corner store where I arrived at 2:25 a.m. I remembered buying antacids because my stomach was upset from the Thai food I'd had for dinner. Then the timeline showed me at the Metro Diner from 2:29 a.m. to 3:04 a.m., where I'd gotten pancakes and coffee while reading on my phone. The map showed me walking back home and arriving at 3:12 a.m. I was gone for almost an hour during the exact time Ingrid claimed the dog was dying. I opened my email again and found an automated message from the building's package scanning system that I'd ignored earlier. It showed a delivery notification at 2:40 a.m. when a package was left in the lobby. The system automatically logged all deliveries even when the security guard was on break, which he apparently was at that time according to the email footer. This proved there was activity in the building that had nothing to do with me. My phone buzzed again, and this time it was a message from an unknown number. The person said they wanted me to know that last week at the dog park, Ingrid had told several people that if anyone ever fed her dog wrong, they would pay for it, and she'd make sure they were destroyed. My stomach turned cold reading this because it sounded like she'd been planning something, or at least threatening it before anything actually happened. I scrolled through Facebook on my phone and typed Ingrid's mom's name into the search bar. Her profile popped up and I started going through her posts from the past few months. My hands froze when I found one from 3 months ago, warning all her friends about roommates who might try to hurt their pets out of jealousy. She wrote a whole long post about how some people can't stand seeing animals get more attention than them and will do terrible things. The post had 47 comments from people sharing their own horror stories about bad roommates and pets. This was dated way before I even saw the apartment listing online. I took screenshots of everything and kept scrolling back further. There were more posts about protecting pets from roommates going back almost a year. My phone buzzed with a message request from someone named Kitty Grimes. She said she saw what was happening in the building chat and wanted to help. She sent me screenshots from when she lived with Ingrid last year, and the exact same thing happened with her hamster. Ingrid had accused her of killing it by giving it the wrong food, but the vet said it died of old age. Kitty said Ingrid went crazy on social media calling her a murderer, and she had to move out because of all the harassment. She sent me 12 different screenshots showing the posts and messages. I saved everything to my cloud storage right away. Another notification popped up and it was an email from Dimitri. He wrote that he looked into it more and the $900 was actually for water damage in Unit 3B from last month when their washing machine broke. He mixed things up because he was so mad, but he still wanted me out of the building as soon as possible. At least he wasn't trying to charge me for something random anymore. Kitty messaged again saying she knew this was hard, but I should remember that Ingrid really did love that dog more than anything. She said Ingrid was probably going crazy from grief and not thinking straight. Kitty suggested I should try to approach this with some understanding even though what they were doing to me was wrong. She said when it happened to her she wished she'd been more patient instead of fighting back so hard. I thanked her for the advice but kept focusing on protecting myself first. I googled tenants' rights clinics in our area and found one that offered free help for housing problems. A woman named Halima Ahmed was listed as the main person who handled harassment cases. I called the number and left a message explaining that I was threatened with eviction and harassed by my roommate and neighbors over false accusations. Halima called back within an hour and said she could help right away because this sounded serious. She asked me to email her all the documentation I had, including my lease, the threats from Dimitri, and any proof of harassment. I spent the next 20 minutes putting together everything in one organized email with all the screenshots and timestamps. Halima responded fast, saying she would draft a formal cease and desist letter for both the property manager and Dimitri. She said the legal letterhead would make them take this seriously and stop the threats. Within 2 hours, she sent me the letters to review, and they looked really official with all the legal language about tenant rights and harassment laws. She told me to print them and deliver copies to both Dimitri and the property manager right away. I did exactly that, and watched Dimitri's face go pale when he read it. The property manager just nodded and said he'd have to review everything with the company lawyer. My phone buzzed with a message from Rudy Van saying he pulled his Ring doorbell footage from last night and found something interesting. He sent me a video file showing Ingrid coming back from walking the dog at 1:12 a.m., and then the kitchen lights in our apartment turning on at 1:20 a.m. The important part was that I wasn't anywhere in the hallway footage during that whole time. The video kept recording until 2:15 a.m. and I never appeared, which matched when I said I left for the diner. This was huge because it proved I wasn't even around when she was dealing with the dog. I thanked Rudy about 50 times and saved the video to 3 different places. While waiting for more responses, I started researching diabetic dogs online to understand what actually happened. The veterinary websites all said that diabetic dogs definitely need consistent feeding schedules, but just feeding them at night wouldn't automatically kill them. The real danger was giving insulin without food, or giving food at the wrong time relative to the insulin schedule. One site said hypoglycemia usually happened when insulin was given, but the dog didn't eat enough food afterward. Another site explained that every diabetic dog had their own specific schedule worked out with their vet, and owners had to stick to it carefully. But nowhere did it say that simply feeding a dog at night was a death sentence. I sent another formal request to Ingrid's mom asking for permission to get the vet records so we could understand what really happened. Her response came back fast and angry, saying I had no right to those records, and insisting I had been planning this for weeks. She wrote that everyone knew what I did, and trying to cover it up with legal tricks wouldn't work. Her message seemed really defensive and almost rehearsed, like she'd practiced what to say. Then something hit me hard as I remembered this morning when everyone was yelling at me. Before the property manager showed up and before most of the neighbors arrived, I saw Ingrid's mom go into the kitchen and empty the trash can into a big black bag. She took it outside right away, which seemed weird at the time, but I was too confused to think about it. Whatever was in that trash is gone now and might have been important evidence about what really happened with the dog's medication or feeding. My phone buzzed with a text from the diner manager saying they had clear security footage of me there from 2:20 a.m. to 3:05 a.m. if the police needed it. I saved that message right away and felt my shoulders relax a little bit, knowing I had solid proof. Another notification popped up from the property manager saying he got Halima's letter and was pausing any lease review until he could verify the facts with the company lawyer. The legal letterhead must have scared him because his tone was way different from earlier when he was ready to kick me out. Kitty sent me a photo of something she called Ingrid's orientation document from when she lived there last year. The date on it was 6 months before I even moved in, and there was no place for new roommates to sign anything. This paper was never meant for me, and proved Ingrid never gave me any pet care instructions like she claimed. I forwarded it to Halima right away, along with screenshots of everything else. Through my bedroom window, I could see the woman from 4C talking to the property manager in the hallway and pointing at our door. She was moving her hands a lot and looked nervous, but I couldn't hear what she was saying through the glass. The property manager was taking notes on his tablet and nodding while she talked. About 10 minutes later, he sent another email to everyone in the building saying a resident confirmed she hadn't seen any notes on our fridge for at least 3 weeks when she came by to borrow sugar. Her statement helped, but I could tell from her body language earlier that she didn't want to get involved in this mess. I stayed at my window and watched Ingrid finally leave with her mom around 4 in the afternoon. They both had red puffy eyes and kept their heads down to avoid looking at anyone in the hallway. Even though they were being horrible to me, I could see the grief was real, and Ingrid really did love that dog. My phone dinged with an email from Martin the vet, with general information about diabetic dogs and hypoglycemia. He explained that it usually happens when insulin gets given, but the dog doesn't eat enough food afterward to balance the blood sugar. The timing he described matched exactly what happened to Ingrid's dog at 2:47 a.m., which meant someone gave insulin but didn't make sure the dog ate properly. I printed out his email and started making a detailed timeline on my laptop comparing everything I knew. The ring footage from Rudy showed Ingrid coming back at 1:12 a.m. and the kitchen lights turning on at 1:20 a.m. My diner receipt showed I left at 2:17 a.m. and didn't come back until 3:12 a.m., according to my Google location data. The dog died at 2:47 a.m., when I wasn't even in the building, and all my evidence proved it completely. I organized everything into a clear document with timestamps and sources for each piece of evidence. The building chat had gotten quieter since the property manager sent his announcement about pausing any action against me. People stopped posting angry messages every few minutes, and some of the worst posts actually got deleted by whoever wrote them. The damage was already done, though, because everyone in the building still thought I was guilty even if they weren't actively attacking me anymore. I knew I had to try talking to Ingrid directly, so I sent her a text asking if we could meet with Halima as a neutral person to go through the facts together. My hands shook while typing because I didn't know if she would even respond or just block my number completely. I waited for what felt like forever, checking my phone every 30 seconds for any response. Nothing came through for over an hour, and I started pacing around my room trying to figure out what else I could do to fix this situation. Then my phone finally buzzed, but it wasn't Ingrid who texted back. Her mom sent a message saying she would authorize the vet to release limited information about the dog's last visit and general care plan. The message was short and cold, but something in her tone seemed different, like maybe she was starting to question what really happened. I immediately called the vet's office and gave them her authorization number so they could prepare the records. The receptionist said it would take about an hour to pull everything together and email it to me. While waiting, I kept refreshing the building chat to see if anyone was posting anything new, but it stayed pretty quiet. A few people were asking questions about what really happened, but nobody wanted to admit they might have been wrong about me. The whole situation felt like it was slowly shifting, but I knew it would take a lot more evidence to completely clear my name with everyone. My laptop dinged with the vet records arriving, and I opened them right away to see what they said. The prescribed schedule showed the dog needed feeding at exactly 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., with insulin given right after eating both times. There was nothing about fridge notes or special instructions taped anywhere, which contradicted what Ingrid and her mom kept insisting. The records also showed the dog had a serious hypoglycemia scare 2 months ago that required overnight monitoring at the vet clinic. This proved the dog already had problems with blood sugar crashes before I ever moved in. I added all this new information to my timeline document and sent copies to Halima for her records. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Halima saying she wanted everyone to meet in the lobby at 3 p.m. to review all the evidence together. My hands started shaking again as I gathered my laptop, phone, and printed copies of everything I'd collected over the past few hours. The walk down to the lobby felt endless, with every step making my stomach twist harder. Ingrid was already there with her mom, both of them sitting on the old leather couch near the mailboxes with their arms crossed. Halima stood by the security desk with a folder and notepad, looking professional in her gray suit. Rudy came down the stairs carrying his tablet, nodding at me before taking a spot near the door. More people started filtering in, including the property manager and even Dimitri, who looked less purple but still angry. I set up my laptop on the coffee table and pulled up the move-in video first, turning the screen so everyone could see the timestamp from 3 weeks ago. The video showed me walking through the apartment, filming everything for insurance purposes, and when it got to the kitchen, everyone leaned forward. The fridge door was completely bare, no notes or schedules anywhere, and the food bin area had nothing taped to it either. Ingrid's mom grabbed the laptop and rewound it twice, staring at the empty surfaces where she insisted the instructions had been. I pulled out my phone next and showed the live photo from last night with the kitchen accidentally in the background, again showing no papers or notes anywhere. Then I opened the vet's memo that had just arrived, holding it up so everyone could read the prescribed feeding schedule of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. with insulin. No mention of any fridge notes or special posting requirements. The memo also detailed the dog's hypoglycemia scare from 2 months ago that required overnight monitoring, proving he already had serious blood sugar problems. Ingrid stood up and pointed at me, insisting I was lying, that I must have deleted everything after filming, but her voice cracked when she said it. Her mom's face had gone pale watching the move-in video, her hands gripping her purse so tight her knuckles turned white. Rudy stepped forward with his tablet and calmly started showing his ring footage from last night without any commentary, just facts about what the camera captured. The footage showed Ingrid coming back from walking the dog at 1:12 a.m., then the kitchen lights turning on at 1:20 a.m., but I wasn't visible anywhere in the hallway during that time. He swiped to another clip showing me leaving at 2:17 a.m. and not returning until 3:12 a.m., well after the dog had died at 2:47 a.m. according to what Ingrid had said. The property manager was taking notes while Dimitri kept shifting his weight from foot to foot, looking less confident than before. I explained to everyone that I'd never seen any medication, never been shown insulin, never had any orientation about the dog's condition. The vet's memo supported this, showing how sensitive the dog was to insulin timing, and how easy it was for hypoglycemia to occur if the schedule got disrupted. Ingrid kept shaking her head, tears streaming down her face, but her mom had gone quiet, staring at the floor. Then something unexpected happened that changed everything. Ingrid's mom suddenly looked up and admitted she'd thrown away a bunch of papers from the kitchen counter during the panic this morning because she was trying to clean up while waiting for the ambulance she'd called for Ingrid. Her voice got smaller as she explained she didn't realize those might have been the missing instructions, that she just grabbed everything and stuffed it in the trash before anyone else arrived. The room went completely silent for what felt like forever. Ingrid turned to stare at her mom with her mouth hanging open, then collapsed back onto the couch sobbing even harder. The property manager cleared his throat and said this obviously changed things, that the evidence clearly showed I wasn't home when the incident occurred. Dimitri pulled out his phone and started typing, probably texting his lawyer about dropping the threats he'd made earlier. Halima handed him a formal letter she'd already prepared about cease and desist for any harassment or lease violations, which he read quickly before nodding and signing it. He mumbled something about his lawyer advising him to drop everything immediately given the timeline evidence, and left without making eye contact with anyone. The crowd that had gathered started breaking up, people heading back to their apartments looking uncomfortable about how they'd acted earlier. I suggested we write something together asking the neighbors to stop the harassment while everyone processed what really happened, but Ingrid wouldn't even look at me. Her mom promised she would post something in the building chat to calm things down and ask people to leave me alone. Halima pulled me aside near the mailboxes and gently suggested I should probably start looking for a new place, even though I was cleared of any wrongdoing. She explained that living with someone who blamed me for their pet's death, even incorrectly, would be unbearable for everyone involved. My chest felt heavy because I knew she was right. This living situation was completely destroyed no matter what the truth was. Later that evening, Kitty sent me a text with links to grief counseling resources and pet loss support groups in the area. I stared at them for a long time before quietly forwarding them to Ingrid's mom's number with a short message saying I was sorry for her daughter's loss. It felt like the right thing to do, even after everything that had happened today. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification from the building chat app showing the property manager had posted a long message about zero tolerance for harassment and threats of immediate eviction for anyone continuing to attack residents. The comment section under his post stayed empty for once. Nobody wanted to risk losing their apartment over this mess. I scrolled through and saw most of the angry posts from yesterday were already gone, people deleting their threats now that management was watching. My laptop showed 17 new apartment listings I'd bookmarked overnight, and I started calling the first one, a studio 30 minutes away that looked perfect for starting over. The leasing agent said they had immediate availability and could show me the place this afternoon if I wanted to come by. I grabbed my keys and headed out, walking past 3 neighbors in the hallway who all looked away without saying anything. The studio was small but clean with big windows, and nobody there knew anything about dead dogs or midnight feedings. I filled out the application right there in the leasing office and put down first month's rent plus deposit before I could change my mind. The relief of having somewhere else to go made my shoulders drop like I'd been carrying rocks for days. Back at the apartment, I found an email from Martin Hewitt, the vet who'd seen Ingrid's dog before, with a formal letter attached explaining that hypoglycemia in diabetic dogs happens fast, and determining exact causes after the fact was basically impossible. He wrote that blame wasn't helpful in these situations, and grief could make people look for someone to punish when really these things just happen sometimes. I forwarded it to Halima and the property manager, figuring documentation couldn't hurt even if things were calming down. My phone showed a new post in the building chat from Ingrid's mom asking everyone to please leave me alone while her family dealt with their loss privately. She wrote that emotions had gotten out of control, and harassment wouldn't bring the dog back, so people needed to stop immediately. Within an hour, I watched the member count in the chat drop by 12 as people left the group, probably not wanting to be associated with yesterday's mob behavior. Another email popped up, this one from Dimitri saying his lawyer advised him the lease violation threats were dropped and there'd be no penalties or issues with my tenancy. He offered to coordinate a smooth move out if I was planning to leave, which felt like the first helpful thing he'd done since this started. I replied that I'd already signed a new lease and would be out by next week, keeping it short and professional. Kitty texted me later that afternoon saying she'd heard through mutual friends that Ingrid had started seeing a grief counselor about losing her dog. She said Ingrid was staying with her mom for now and working through everything that happened with professional help. I didn't reply, but felt glad she was getting support even after all the crazy accusations she'd made. The moving company confirmed they could come Saturday morning, and I started packing boxes, wrapping dishes in newspaper while trying not to think about that first day I'd moved in 3 weeks ago. Everything fit into maybe 15 boxes since I hadn't even finished unpacking from the last move when all this started. I labeled each one carefully and stacked them by the door, ready to get out of this place forever. Saturday came fast, and Rudy showed up at 7 in the morning with coffee and helped me carry boxes down to the truck. He didn't mention the dog situation once, just talked about basketball and weather while we loaded everything. The movers were done in 2 hours, and I did a final walkthrough, checking every cabinet and closet to make sure nothing got left behind. My evidence folder with all the videos and timestamps stayed backed up in 3 different cloud services, plus a thumb drive in my pocket, but I tried to let go of the anger while locking the door. I'd written a small sympathy card the night before, just saying losing a pet was hard, and I was sorry for her loss. Nothing about blame or who did what. I slipped it under the apartment door, and heard it slide across the floor on the other side. Walking down the hallway one last time, I deleted the building chat app from my phone, and felt the notification badges disappear. The new studio was waiting across town where nobody knew this story, and I could just be another tenant who paid rent on time and didn't cause problems. Some situations can't be fixed no matter how much evidence you have or how wrong the accusations were. Sometimes leaving is the only real answer when trust gets destroyed that completely. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. It's definitely been a journey worth sharing. Until we meet again, folks, if you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your comments.